I'm not here to be your friend.
Yeah.
I'm here to be your mom first and foremost.
There's so much competition to be better than your teammate.
The way you talk about Cam and your relationship is so special. We have Michelle Bain-Brink.
What has really helped her is talking to athletes who have been through it. You could lose your scholarship. It's just stay involved. There's a tide that's rising and there's room for everybody.
There's such a power in ownership of saying I need help.
People are going to be looking for you to screw up. If you love the sport and the team aspect of it, you'll love women's basketball.
We are back with season 2. It's Lauren Duletsky.
And I'm Jackie G.
And this is the Click Clack podcast. I cannot believe it's season 2.
Same girl.
What is happening?
Season 2 feels like there was so much time in between, but like actually it was only like 1 month. But I'm so happy that we're finally in season 2. Season 1 was an absolute amazing season, like so many ups and downs, so many learnings, and I feel like we're coming into season 2 hot and like super excited and really rejuvenated.
Yeah, and I think for me in season 2, we explored so many topics in season 1, but we've learned so much about ourselves, about guests, about women's sports, about all these things. So I think for season 2, what I'm so excited about is to really go into more topics, deeper topics like women's health, mental health. We know it's such an important factor in women's sports and in women's lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're super excited to cover more sports, We want people to know that like while basketball is our roots, obviously because of Jackie and her expertise in the game, I fell in love with the WNBA over the last year because of just what I was seeing from the women, and just finally there was like just energy around it. But we really want to focus on emerging sports because the energy around women's sports as a whole is huge right now. So think of things like women's tackle football, flag football, which is going to be a huge sport in LA 28. Like we want to really look into the future of those sports and like what are those going to look like? And then obviously Winter Olympics is in next year. Like how can we bring athletes that are going to be competing in snow sports, which are sports I love, onto this podcast to really talk about what is it like to be an athlete in snow sports.
Like you said, I feel like season 1 we learned things that we like wanted to talk about, that we like talking about, and season 2 is all about knowing those things that we know now and applying them to season 2. And then like you said, like expanding what we're talking about across multiple sports, and that's something that I'm super excited to get into this season because there are a lot of women's sports that I'm not, that knowledgeable on. So this is going to be a really fun season, a lot of things to learn, and just super excited.
With that, I think it's a good segue to talk about how we're going to set up the show this season. Last season, literally, you guys, we were like, okay, what guests can we get and how does this work? And we didn't really have a lot of planfulness around it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've listened to you all and like, what do you like? What do you not like? And so we're actually going to do episodes with just Jackie and me where we phone in friends and we just make it more about like culture of women's sports and topics. And then the second type of episode we'll have is truly guest episodes because we want to peel back the layers of these incredible multidimensional women and help you fall in love with them off the court or off the pitch or off the mountain, like whatever sport that they do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the way I look at it, like our culture episodes are a way to really bring out who we are as people, which doesn't always necessarily shine through in the seasons with our guests because we're trying to, talk about and tell a story of our amazing guests, which is that's what it's for. So I really love the culture episodes with you and I because it's just a opportunity to catch up, talk about life, and, really just like let our personalities shine. Yours always does. Mine doesn't necessarily always shine in guest episodes. But yeah, I think it's just a great way for our listeners and our fans to really just see who we are and what we're about.
And also, you might notice, where are we, Jack?
We're in our new fire-ass studio in my house. Tell us a little bit about the setup, Elle.
Yeah, so last season, our studio was in my house and it was in my office. And, we tried to make it look cute. But as we kind of figured out what our brand is about, what do we love, what do we not love, what works, what doesn't work. One thing that really spoke to me when I came to your house, and Jackie's been so gracious to open up her house for our studio, is all of the beautiful memorabilia in this house. I mean, you guys, Jackie has accomplished so much in sports. I know we've peppered it through multiple episodes, but I had to write a bio for her the other day and I was like, I can't even fit this on a page. Like, what is happening? Like, this woman has accomplished so much in sports. And so I feel like because this brand is so built on us as friends, our different, very diverse backgrounds in sports, the things we love, like it was very special to bring that back here where we could celebrate you.
That's so sweet. Some would say if they came down here that I'm absolutely full of myself, but my
No.
dad actually, I can credit him for framing all my jerseys, framing everything that's in here. And when I like officially moved out of my parents' house, my mom was like, "You're taking every single thing. I want everything out of my house." So that is why I have all this stuff, but honestly, it just takes me down memory lane and I can just really reflect on those times at that moment. And I don't know, it's really special, and I'm glad that my dad, like, did that for me, so I have all this cool shit. And I'm
Steve.
so glad that we are doing our podcast here because I do think it's just like it makes perfect sense. Like, you have kids, it was too hard for you and your family, and Carla and I don't yet. And down here, like, this room is never used, so why
Yeah.
not use it for our podcast?
Yeah, it really, like, we had kind of this like light bulb went off. We're like, oh my God, we should build our studio there.
Yeah.
And like also, it's fun to be able to style it with things that like feel like us, and kind of
Mhm.
bring both sides of the coin in. And so, yes, we have a new studio. We're going to record a lot of episodes here, but we're also going to record some episodes out in the world this season.
That's really something I'm looking forward to. I
Yeah.
think bringing Click Clack on the road is going to be just awesome.
It's gonna be freaking epic.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have so much planned for you. We just wanted to kind of recap, tell you a little bit about the format this season. And now, you guys, we've got a doozy this week.
Dun dun dun.
So we interviewed someone very, very special. And to start season 2 with this is so meaningful for us on a couple of fronts. One, she's a mother. Mother's Day is approaching. We're super excited about it. And 2, Jackie was so kind to help make an introduction for us. So Jack, do you want to tell us a little bit about our guest?
Yeah. So like you said, Mother's Day is coming up, and we thought about Michelle Brink, who's Cameron Brink's mom. Everyone knows who Cameron Brink is. A lot of people probably do know who Michelle is, but she's in our backyard. Cam went to high school here in Portland. So for us, it was just kind of a no-brainer to bring her on. And the fact that she was willing to do it so easily is amazing. My small interactions that I've had with her are, been very pleasant. She's super easygoing, very approachable. And when we reached out to her, she was just amazing and so great and willing to come on our podcast, which I thought was just awesome.
Totally. So I think with that, we should jump into the interview. What do you think?
I think we should. Let's freaking do
Let's
it.
freaking go, girl. We are so honored. We are in season 2 now of Click Clack, and we have one special guest with us here today. We have Michelle Bain-Brink, amazing mother to Cam Brink, former athlete, Nike business leader. I mean, the definition of a multidimensional woman, which our podcast is all about celebrating. So, Michelle, welcome to Click Clack. We're so happy to have you here.
An honor, absolute honor to be here.
Like Lauren said, it's truly an honor to have you here, so thank you for being here. I always like to just ask, just give us, I guess, a quick Cliff Note version of your story and everything that you've done up until this point.
I think it's important to mention I was raised by a single mom. I'm the youngest of 3 girls, first one in my family to go to college, and without sports, without Title IX, it wouldn't have happened. So I always remind Cameron of that. And I was playing in a tournament against a larger school. It's called Colony. It's in Albany, New York. Is the capital of the state. And there were scouts there to watch the guard on the other team. And for the Empire State Games. So from there, I was recruited for Empire State Games. And from there, college coaches came and I started to get recruited that way.
So you got a full ride scholarship.
I did.
That's
That's
incredible.
amazing.
So my freshman year, I walked into my suite and Sonya Adams at the time, Sonya Curry now, was at the sink. And I remember looking at her and I was like, her arms were totally cut. And I had been...
Is she an athlete?
Yeah, she played volleyball.
She played volleyball. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we were all... basketball and volleyball players were in this suite together. And I remember looking at her, I was like, how did you get your arms? And she's like, girl, I never lifted a weight a day in my life. I was like, I hate you. She actually was kind of recruited to play basketball there, decided to play volleyball. So she's a multi-sport athlete. Yeah. And then she left early to have Stefan get married.
Oh, nice.
We never played together, but I would have loved it.
You met Greg, your husband, at Virginia Tech as well, right?
Exactly, yes. So he was a year behind me, so I was a cradle robber, cougar. And then from there, from Virginia Tech, I worked for Champ Sports. And from there, I met Eakins who came and were working and presenting at our stores.
How do you describe what an Eakin is?
Yeah, it's Eakin is Nike backwards. It's a technical rep. You're kind of like the face of Nike. And I think it ebbs and flows depending on what department they put the Eakin group in. You truly need to know Nike backwards and forwards, hence it's named, it's why it's called Eakin. And Phil Knight considered himself the first Eakin. It's just got a great history. It was a magical job, and we were really competitive with Adidas and other companies, and so much so that Adidas named their tech group initially, because they didn't know what it stood for, they named them Eakins.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, it was such a fun
Okay,
life.
that's a great story.
Yeah, it's a good story. So dream job, I was product line manager for women's basketball when the W just started to take off. Yeah, it was amazing. From there, I moved into the cross training category. And then I went into sales. So out in the field, that's why in New Jersey, Cameron was born at Princeton, in Princeton, New Jersey. She's a Jersey girl. Sadly, my husband was a Nike employee. He was in the city September 11th. We had people in our neighborhood impacted. It was really, obviously horrific time. So that was a catalyst for us to move back. And Greg, a finance role came open. I think it was the CFO role for North America. That pulled us back. And so I went into sales up there. And then he convinced me to retire when we came back, which was scary. Yeah. Because, again, I was raised by a single mom, and I'm always going to be independent. I'm never going to depend on someone else, especially a man. And so as he started to talk to me about it and to think about it, he goes, and I'm like, well, I could do this job, I could do that job, and he's like, just stop, it's not about you right now. And it's like, think about the kids. And I was like, okay, you're right, I'm gonna try. So Cameron wasn't really even playing till we came back 6th grade. From there, but Coach Meek coached her in club ball. He asked me to be the assistant, which I was like, what? But that was it. It
kind of makes sense though.
Yeah, it was beautiful because I was driving her all the time anyway. So he really ran everything. He had for club ball, and they played club and they played high school together. I'm not kidding. We had a playbook this thick. It was crazy. Yeah, we would roll into gyms and beat more talented teams because they just
so prepared
ran. And I sat on boards and did a lot of things that kept me busier, it felt like, than when I was at Nike. But anyway, it was the best decision. And my son, I was able to invest in my son, and he was offered a rowing opportunity at UW. But the funny thing is that Cameron used to make fun of him for rowing, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, brother,
it's
sister.
It's the competition between the two.
And she fell in love with a rower at Stanford.
Oh, she did?
So, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. That's right. He's a rower.
And he is a stud, might I add. Like an absolute
There
stud.
are pictures together.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't.
like, these two.
Yeah.
I can't. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so I'm like, I love hearing these stories because, like, I know that's going to be them, at some point.
For sure.
And I want them to be close. It's so important to me. Yeah. And it seems like they have a good relationship.
They do. And it gets better all the time.
I love to hear that.
Yeah. He's so proud of her.
You've inspired me, Michelle, to be like, when Haley gets to that era where because she's super creative, I think she wants to be an artist. She's already said that.
Did too.
Really?
And she didn't want to play basketball initially.
Oh my God, that brings me so much joy because I really want Haley to play, and I'd love her to be an athlete or like at least embrace sport in her young life. But I want her to be creative. I want her to embrace her art, her artistic self.
You're a cool mom.
I try to be, but sometimes it feels hard because I'm like, I have to also come down on you when you're being naughty. So
definitely do that.
She definitely pushes me, and so I just think those mother-daughter relationships are so special.
My advice for that, though, because I've seen a lot of moms try to. So I've been blessed to have Sonya go ahead of me, right? Mm. So her kids, so Stefan's he's 36, I think. And my oldest is 25, about to be 26. So I watched and learned a lot and pulled all of the things that I thought were great. She's old school, she's strict. But what I loved from watching her raise her kids is, I'm going to be your mom first. Yeah. And and this is what Cameron still brings it up to this day. It's like, I'm not here to be your friend. Yeah. I'm here to be your mom first and foremost. And if we get through this, we get through these, teen years, and we come through it on the other side and we're friends, That's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to let her, I mean, we're all imperfect, and she had imperfect moments,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely held her to those when I felt she was not meeting the standards of what we expected from her as a student or an athlete or a friend. And the mistake I saw a lot of moms make, not a lot, where they would say, well, how would you do this, etc. And I'm like, stop trying to be her friend.
Yeah.
Best advice. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It can work, but it won't work if you let her walk all over you right now. That's the best advice.
I feel like too, if you have a mom that had you when they were really young, and there's not like a huge age gap, like that could be tough. Because I know for my mom and my half sister, they had a very different relationship than my mom with me and my full sister. And my mom had her first child when she was 16. She just wasn't ready to be a mom quite that young. And I think they had just a very different relationship than me and my sister had with my mom.
Yeah. But it's hard.
It's really
It's really hard because there's those moments where you're just like, well, no, we're gonna hold firm on this. It's hard.
It is really hard. And I think now too, for me, it's with all of the pressures, like, even just we didn't have social media back in the day, right? And we had like AAM and MySpace, like little, like the very earliest days of social media. And I think one of the things I am very scared about is those environmental pressures and how is she going to react? I know some of that I can't control, but, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, Cam coming up as an athlete, and how did you support her during that? Because she definitely came up. I mean, she's a lot younger than us. She came up in an era of social media and lots of pressure and lots of different things. And, I think just anything you can shed light on of that experience and how you guys kind of work through that together would be really amazing to hear.
Maybe before she went to college, she started putting pictures out there in bathing bikinis, and especially her dad was like, Cameron, I think you should take that down.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Is that really how you want to portray yourself? Yeah. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. She was so embarrassed of her body before. And now she's so confident that she's putting a bikini picture out there. I was like, okay, I have to support her through this because I would never personally do that. I mean, maybe when I was her age, maybe if I was, involved in social media. But the fact that she's that confident about her body, and then she made a goal of being in Sports Illustrated Swim. Like she talked about it. She manifested it year after year after year. And when they came to her right when she hurt her knee.
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, I can't train for it. I don't feel comfortable. Yeah. And then they came back, like, I can't remember, 3-6 months later. Wow. So she did it.
She slayed. I mean, that cover, I was like, oh my God. I mean, and I love seeing her, Alona Mar, like women across different sports, like these women that have different bodies and different size, like, because I didn't grow up, I had a lot of body confidence issues. And so I'm so happy you bring that story up because body dysmorphia is so real for women. And I think it's so cool as her mother and a woman who we all experience some level of body shaming in our lives, right? To be like, look at her owning her power and her body and like supporting that, because that's what, like, again, can shape the future of their lives and like how they embrace their bodies.
Yes. And we talked about this too. I always was very proud of my height. Like I wanted to be tall. And so I think we've talked about this, how your actions really feed into your kids even more than what you say, right? Because sometimes it's white noise to a kid, blah, blah, blah. So I've loved being tall. So I think that was, she went through awkward times, but height was fine. I did find myself, and this is a lesson learned to, like, I'm like, look at myself. I'll be like, ew, ew. And I verbalize those things. Like, oh, I wish I could lose 10 pounds, or I this, or I that. And if I could go back in time and do it over, you're always going to have those things that you say to yourself. But if I could go back, I would say them less often in front of my kids, because it just feeds into the societal pressures and like the ew that you never want them to feel. And so that's my mom learning moment. Like, don't
That's good
do
advice
that.
for the other mothers that are listening.
Yeah, I mean, even like if the word fat even comes up anywhere in our house, I get very triggered. We are not going to say the word fat because it is so triggering for me. And I just don't want Haley growing up thinking that her body isn't perfect.
An older person in Cameron's life, a woman, called us after we were lucky enough to go on a cruise when we lived in Europe. And on cruises you do, like you're eating a lot, etc. And this older woman said to her, so how much weight did you gain? She's not even in middle school yet.
Yeah.
And I remember she still talks about it to this day.
Yeah.
It was a trigger for her. Because that's the time when girls are starting to, they're looking at things on social media and other people. And to have someone that you look up to talk to you about your weight at that age is so like, oh no, just don't. Just trying another advice for a parent. Just don't do that.
I look back at like even my college days and I gained like the freshman 25 or 15, whatever it was.
Too.
Well, it was actually, it was 25 pounds for me. It wasn't 15, but neither here nor there. And I remember like we had the number one recruiting class in the country. We were the Fab Four, okay, when we came in. And our coach, not naming names, but he then referred to us as the Fat Four. And I kid you not, like even going on road trips, like they would circle things that we could eat and it was all like lettuce and stuff like that.
This
like
is still
salads.
happening to
This is like, this is crazy to me, but like that's so triggering for me because like even like other teammates when we talk about it, we're just like, how is that okay?
Yeah.
And like and then obviously like before then like you said, like our moms like would use that word a lot and they, I need to lose 10 pounds or I need to do this or I look fat and blah, blah, blah. And you like grow up and you listen to these things. But like, like I'm so afraid to like gain a pound because I'm like, it's something triggers me from like those times. And I'm just like, it's so important the way that we talk to our the younger generation of people. Yeah.
Our actions. And I said this too, it's like words, your kids and people who you influence are listening, but even more so they're watching.
Yeah.
Like they're watching how you act. So it's, that there's that cute thing about, you see the graphics where, they're listening, little eyes are watching and listening. And so it's hard. It is, but I think it's something that we need to
just be more aware of. We're not going to be perfect, but just like the awareness of it.
Yeah. And it is the same with sports too, with both of our kids. Like our son had problems with his feet, hence why he was a rower. He had to have Stefan's surgeon lengthened his Achilles. They wanted to rebuild his feet, but we were going back to Europe. It didn't work out. But anyway, she definitely showed a very competitive edge. But again, she's like, I'm the contrarian. I don't want to play sports. Everybody else plays sports in the family. And we kept coming back for the summers. But the 3 years we were in Europe, it seemed like the Curry family, something was happening. Stefan was getting married then they had Riley. And so one of the summers we went back and Cy had his Achilles operated on. And it happened to coincide with Devil's Camp. So Stefan's dad holds a camp in Charlotte. And because Cy couldn't move around, Cameron thought, I'll just go sit at the pool all day. And I'm like, no, you're going to go do something. Yeah. You're not going to just chill at the pool every day. And so Sonya talked to her. She's like, just try the camp. Just go for a half day. And she's like, no, I don't want to. She's like, you're not going to sit home. She goes, okay, I'll try. So she had never played. And she goes to this camp where it's pretty much all boys. And it's hot. It was like indoor-outdoor camp. And it's in North Carolina. It's hot. It's humid. Yeah. She comes back after half the day. And she just looks, she was just a mess. And she's like, I don't know. It's okay, but, I don't know what I'm doing. And we're like, okay, just go another half day. Go tomorrow. And she did. And then she comes back. And she actually has to stay a little longer, day 2. And then by day 3, she's like, the competition kicked in. And she comes back and she's like she does now, she's talking shit. She's like, so-and-so's been playing for 5 years and it's my first summer. And I'm like, Mom, I scored on him. And la, la, la.
Oh, yeah. So it started to come out.
It fueled her. And so then we go back and she tried out for the team in Amsterdam. They played on lower hoops. They no backcourt defense.
Oh my gosh.
And the only thing they did was right-handed layups. And so, Cameron, she was doing well. Like, she was learning quickly, but we knew that she was going to be, if she wanted to continue to play, she was going to be in for a rude awakening when we got back. And she hadn't really grown yet.
Yeah.
And so we walk into the gym to Coach Meek's team.
She's a freshman in high school at this point?
No, she was sixth grade.
Oh, she's okay, sixth grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she wasn't taller than the other two posts.
Okay.
And of course, she sprouted quickly. But it was a steep learning curve for her. Just we practiced 5-6 days a week, and we went to Coach Meek's house and we went through that playbook. Yeah. You walked through. If we couldn't get gym time, you were out in the yard and you were walking through the plays, and like it was like a crazy ramp up. Yeah. She got her first offer at the Stanford camp. It was crazy. They pulled her up from her age group to play with older kids, and then one night they asked her to scrimmage with the actual players. I mean, she was gone. So that range of emotion that day was crazy. She was yay, and then she was crying because she was scared, and then she was it was great experience. And we're leaving Stanford does this really fun thing where they give each kid that makes like the all-star team, they give them old jerseys from players that they've had left really over. Cool. So she's holding this giant jersey, and we're cheesing, and we have the Hoover Tower behind us. And it was Kate Pay who was like, we'd love to have her here. And I thought, we're camp next year. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, not for a second did it ever enter my mind that was really? Like, we'd love to have her here. No, she was so raw. I mean, I'm like, what are you? So I should get through the point. So Kate says that. And I'm like, I'll check the calendar, with club basketball next year. If we can make it work. And I'm sure Kate was like,
she's like, what is she talking about?
You idiot. Like, what? So we get back, Coach Meek then, and so end of the trail, happens. And so then she starts getting, and I think the next offer was Oregon. And we assumed Oregon was the first one. And we're like, oh my gosh, Cameron, this is so amazing. You're from Oregon and it's your first offer. And Coach Meek was like, Stanford offered her I was like, what? So anyway, very surreal. And so though from there, that was her taste of, wow, I can be good and I could do well at this. And so then she gets through, and she's a freshman, and she goes to one of her teammates' homes for a sleepover, and the parents are gone, and they get into their alcohol, and we don't find out till a couple of days later because someone puts on social media they're like running around in the street and like in their sports bras and whatever. But we knew that she had been drinking, and we also knew that a good friend of ours whose daughter had been offered a scholarship to play soccer at Oregon had posted herself with an actual drink in her hand, and they almost pulled her scholarship.
Oh my gosh.
And so we sat her down and we're like, look, this is your path. Yeah. You can do what you want to do, but look at what happened to our friend. And that if you go to these parties, because especially at that point, things did start to, there was some claws were starting to come out from other kids, especially after they found out she'd been offered so young. There's going to be phones at every one of these parties. Yeah. And people are going to be looking for you to screw up. Yeah. It's your decision. You could lose your scholarship. Right. Your call. She never went to another party.
Wow.
In high school.
But the way you framed that, I've never heard a parent frame it that way. Like, even when I think about when I was reprimanded by my parents, it was like, you can't do this. But like, I love the way you framed it as like, this is your choice. Yeah. I think that is the best piece of feedback because it helps them process, like, there's two roads here. Yeah.
At what point did you realize that Cam was really good?
I will say the Stanford coaches realized it before we did. This is a great question. I never really thought about it. I will say probably freshman year, and she played varsity and they won a state championship. Because I was helping coach, I ended up creating a relationship with one of Cameron's teammates who had some issues with her family and moved in with us for her senior year of high school. Wow. So Caitlin went on to play for the Air Force Academy. Nice. But Kaylin was invited to this, like senior thing for Oregon, a banquet. And Avina came in late because she had just come back from, I think, like the Jordan game or the McDonald's game and was named, some kind of national award. And I remember Cameron was already looking up to her, and Avina walked by and sat down at the table with her family. And Cameron was like, "No, that's what I want to do.
That's
I want to
awesome.
I want to make those teams." And
So that was like her aha moment where she was like, okay, I think I can do this, or I want to do this. Okay, so I'm curious. I want to know how you and Greg managed workload with Cam, and like, I'm curious to know like how much you guys pushed her when you were like, okay, let's pull back a little bit.
I think we were lucky that, again, we know that we've seen parents who want it more than their kids. And there's nothing worse than that, right? Nobody's happy. So that's why we really did let it come to her organically. And then when she got a taste of success, she wanted to put the time in. And I think she also she realized quickly that just going to practice with her teammates wasn't going to get her to the level she wanted. So she knew she had to work with trainers, etc. We were also really lucky to get connected to Susan and Curtis Borchard. So they run the Athlete Blueprint. They both amazing. Right? They were great about helping us manage load and lifting and like on court versus off court. So we had a great blueprint, if you will. Hence the name of their company. But we also, she wanted to put the time in. But there were times, there's definitely those days. I mean, she's not the kid that was always like, yay every day. But what we did, we held her to is like, because there's sometimes, one just recently happened in Paris, like if you make that commitment to work with that trainer and you don't give them enough time to reschedule with another athlete, we're not going to cancel, because either we're going to have to pay for it, so you're taking money out of our pocket, or you're taking money out of their pocket. So if you commit to that time slot, you're going
for sure.
And each time when she was tired those days, because everybody is, and she was reluctant, once she got there, she was all in, and she was happy after she left. But it also happened in Paris. She was lucky enough to go over with New Balance, and it was the Pacers were playing the Spurs over there. And so after the first game, there was 2 games, and after the first game, the team invited her out, and so she went with Callie. So Callie, thank goodness, because I went home early like a nerd, and she and Callie stayed out, and they didn't stay out that late, but they went back to Callie. They ordered pizza, went back to the room, and they stayed up talking till like, it was great. I mean, I love it. I love their relationship. But that next morning, she had Curtis Borchard actually came with us. And that next morning, she had a workout, and I stayed in her room, and she's like, "Mom, please call Curtis. I can't make it." I was like, "Oh, this is very Econ. This is very Nike. Like, you can go out, you can get after it, but you're gonna ring the bell. You're gonna answer the bell the next morning." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "You're getting up and you're going to the workout." And she's like, "Ugh." And she did, and she did well. And she crushed it. Like, she's competitive, so when she gets there, she works hard. But she had that moment where I had to mom her again. It's like, I don't care. You can be mad at me, but Curtis didn't fly from Oregon to Paris to not work out one day with you. Like, no, it's not happening.
Now, obviously, Cam has been such an advocate publicly for mental health and sharing her story and your journey together. Talk a little bit about, as she's grown up and she's really come into her power. What is she doing now to really be an advocate for mental health for women and some of the things she's working on?
I think what she's doing is just talking about it and making it and normalizing talking about it. I think it's been a journey. So in high school, when she had her issues, we just always made it clear, like, whatever you want. Even when our son was rowing, like, what can we do? Who do you need? Who do you need to talk to? We'll ask the questions. There is no shame in needing a performance coach or psychologist, whatever you need. So I would hope that parents do that as well. Like, there are resources out there that are free. Also, just start the research to provide that for them. So high school a little bit, but then as she talks about this openly, after they won the national championship her first year at Stanford, And I don't think you know that, I think you've heard the story. They were under the tightest regulations of any team in the country because of the county that they were in. Like, I think you may have heard the story where the Niners couldn't even practice. They had to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
And Stanford had to do that as well. They had to wear monitors, and then they would practice for 3 hours against each other, but then they'd have to go into their own room. They wouldn't let them eat together. They wouldn't let them go on walks together. It just, then they came back from Vegas, and then they could go back into their dorm. Like, it was just this really awful year. And she goes, Mom, I think it broke my brain. Like, it just really was so difficult. And so she talked about that openly in interviews. And that after that year, Cal Hope awarded her a mental health award. Wow. And so from there, I think she's just like, this is helping other people. So whenever she has the opportunity, it's organic. She just will talk about it. And so I think it's been recognized, and now Oregon has recognized that, and she's receiving the Trillium Award. She can't accept it in person tomorrow, so Greg and I will accept it on her behalf. Wow. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful honor.
It's such a beautiful thing because it's like such a hard topic for athletes to talk about. And it's such a hush-hush topic because you don't want to show, signs of weakness. So I think that Cam has done such a beautiful job at expressing those things and talking about them. And she's like paved the way for a lot of people, I would say. And like, it's also inspired me from afar because as someone who dealt with a lot of injury, I was very depressed in college, but like didn't have any resources or anyone to talk to about it, or I was afraid to talk about it. So there's just so many things that I wish I would have known, back then. And I think that she's probably going to help a lot of people that are coming up from behind her.
So, and it's still not easy. I mean, she had a teammate her freshman year who was going through it and did talk about it, and it didn't work out as well for her. And very sadly. And she didn't, nothing happened to her. Nothing terrible happened to her, but it just, everybody's journey is different. So to just not, and for coaches to accept that, because there has been, I think in the past, there's been this thought that, oh, I can't trust that player because they're not tough mentally. And there's nothing further than the truth, especially people who go and get help. And there's all different types of help. So
for sure. There's such a power in ownership of saying I need help.
Exactly.
And something that really related to me when I was reading some of the stories is I think a lot of women can remember a very core memory of being bullied about their body or their looks or whatever it is. What were some of the, the great moments and the really hard moments that you guys had to work through together to get to where this incredible, confident woman she is today?
Yeah. So I think it happens to so many people, right? You meet so many other parents and girls who've had, and boys too. I mean, stuff happened to Stefan and Seth and clearly to Sidell that it's not unique, sadly, in that way. But it was really hard for Cameron because it really happened with her quote unquote best friend on her team, on her high school team. And I'll never forget it. I was actually driving with the best friend's mom in the car, and I get a call. And this is just one example, but it was kind of the linchpin. So I get the call from Cameron and from school, and she's in tears. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And she's like, well, so-and-so handed me her phone. I'm not going to mention names.
Of course.
She handed me her phone and, wanted to show me something funny. And I looked at it and I also swiped. And then the picture before that was a picture that her best friend took of her and spliced and took it from Cameron's backside. And then another very unattractive person's, in their mind, two unhealthy things together with something written over the top, and actually about the boy that Cameron was dating at the time. Like, it was so, like, I don't even want to repeat it. It was so gross, so ugly. Really ugly. And so I was like, okay, she was a mess. I'm like, I'm coming to get you. And I had to say to the mom, like, this is involving our kids.
Yeah.
Wow. And so I drop her off. I go get Cameron, and And then it just, so then, we get past it that day, that week, and we're in the gym and we're working out with a trainer, and we had been rezoned. So we were in the Mountainside district anyway. And something came up with another girl from the Mountainside school who was like, well, why don't you just come to Mountainside? And Cameron's like, Mom, could I do that? She goes, it's taking the joy of basketball away from me. Okay, let's weigh the pros and cons. We talked it through, and then it was easy. All we had to do was walk into the office, and they had our address, and she was zoned for Mountainside, and so that's what we did. Yeah, she actually surprisingly. So her first 2 years at Stanford was amazing, and I think I attributed it to there are just excellent that. It's a school that breeds excellence, right?
Yeah.
You are special in some way on the court and off the court.
Definitely.
And so, and she had leadership there, that the elder, because at Stanford, and I don't know how it was at USC, it's very much the coaching staff is like, we're not here to be your friends. We're here to be your coaches.
Yeah.
And sisterhood is what you guys build with each other. And you have to get each other through the tough times. So her first 2 years, she really had that. Her third year, sadly, they lost in the tournament, the Pac-12 tournament, I think, to UCLA.
I was there, I want to say, watching.
And it was just uncharacteristic. And then they had a team meeting that also was uncharacteristic. And the coaches, without sharing a lot, came to me and they're like, we're really sorry. We did not. This is so un-Stanford-like because it is about the sisterhood, and we did not manage it. And so it was a great learning experience. Cameron also built another, layer of thick skin. But vowed to be a great leader and to not let that happen her senior year. And so she was, all about pouring into and not letting her last year be a repeat. So they had a decent year. I think I saw they lost here in Portland. But at least they went further with arguably less talent.
Well, I love this story because, as we've gone on this journey with this podcast and really kind of peeling back the layers of women and what make them who they are, we're really trying to understand, like, how can those two things exist? Because a lot of women, I've experienced it in business, in my business culture, where I'm like, why is this happening? We should be banding together, not trying to tear each other apart and steal each other's jobs. And like, this is opposite of the mission, right?
It's crazy you say that because it really, I think it's getting better at Nike, although I think, culturally they're still they're pulling themselves out of some things they sadly have lost, I think, a lot of culture and history and experience. But when I was there, for me at Nike, it was worse than when I was playing sports.
Wow.
Yeah, and there were fewer seats at the table for women there. It was, male dominated. And, I am Pollyanna. I'm like, no, she would never do that to me. And let's all, being a team sport athlete, I'm like, okay, there's the goal. There's what we should just all, like, let's all pull toward that goal.
Right. It happens everywhere. And it's just, and I talk to so many women across industries, whether they're athletes or not, and every woman has that story. Women's sports are like my jam, is because I'm like, this is a place where women can thrive. Yes. Like Nafisa and Stewie. I love that story because like they competed against each other and then here they are and unrivaled supporting each other.
And especially with what's happening in women's sports, it's so beautiful. There's a tide that's rising and there's room for everybody, right? And the tide is lifting all the ships. So let's embrace that. And I do feel that, like, I feel that with Cameron and the Sparks. Like, there's just this beautiful, and now that Kelsey's there. In fact, she just texted me as I was driving over. She's like, Mom, I'm going over to Kelsey's. Like, Kelsey is that vet that she's really needed. And Dearica has been great. And she has a great
She's awesome.
She's so lovely.
Yeah, she is.
She just was on Cameron's podcast. And
she was? Nice.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the story. So Cameron made the 3v3 Olympic team. That's another heartbreaker. She made the Olympic team for 3v3 and Dee did not.
Yeah.
So they cried then when that happened. And Cameron tears her ACL. And Cameron in the locker room, because Jen Rosati was there, was at Connecticut. And Cameron said, you better put Dee in my spot. I'm going to start crying about it now. And so then Dee called her. They did have Dee take her spot. And they cried about it then, and they cried on the
How
podcast.
how supportive though, like for
Yeah,
them. Like
I
you
mean,
don't
I
see
just
that in sports.
no,
You
Full
know?
body
especially what we were
chills.
just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful, supportive thing, and for what Dee's been through.
Yeah.
And
She's been through a lot
yeah,
as well.
so she's a beautiful human. So I
Yeah.
love that Cameron has those people around her. And again, I'll go back to Stanford. Cameron had that her freshman and sophomore year, so she's really been able to experience that now on two levels. And I'm going to talk about Stanford again because they all had their own thing, and that's I think what we have to teach women now. Like Fran, she's now going on to be a doctor in medical school. Like Fran, this is what's great about Fran on and off the court, and Lexi and Lacey, and they all had their own thing that they knew that they were excellent about, and they were just all pulling toward the same goal.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, the cattiness just didn't exist. It was beautiful.
That's
So when you lose that though, then you're like, ugh, it's gross.
So just to touch on a little bit, Cam's injury, because I know she's still recovering now, right?
Yes.
How has she like gone through the process? How is she feeling? Where's her mental state?
Cameron, like I said, was devastated because she thought, oh, it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I've put all this work in for this to not happen. So she took it really hard, and especially the Olympics piece. Like I think just missing the W season would have been tough enough, but you layered on missing the Olympics was just. And then her competitive spirit has kicked in, and she's like, I'm not going to let this define me. And so we're still working with Susan and Curtis and Chelsea. Works the trainer for the Sparks. Works hand in hand, and so they have a cohesive. For her, she met with Ella Trosh is her surgeon. Who's this stud in LA.
She's in good hands.
Yeah. Okay, I can't wait to hear how many you've worked with.
Yeah, we don't even need to go there.
And so she's ahead of schedule. But it hasn't been linear.
Okay.
It has, which everyone has told her. It's been left and right and up and down.
Yeah.
And I think I said this to you, is that I hope that you do put your story out there and talk to as many people as you can, because her dad was injured, etc., but that doesn't matter. What has really helped her is talking to athletes who have been through it. I think I told you Jamal Murray with Denver. She met him at a New Balance shoot. He's a New Balance athlete. And he has just kept it very real with her. She's showed me, he sent her a text message, I'm not kidding, is this long, like what to expect. And did not keep it rosy. And he's like, and then recently when she was having a bad day, she texted him again, and he's like, look, I didn't feel great until year 2. Like I didn't feel completely 100% mentally there. He goes, my first year back after, he goes, I had a great year, but I mentally was still scared. And so it's those people, the people who have been through it, have really helped her. So.
Yeah, it's a grueling process. Like, I absolutely would. But yeah, there's so many ups and downs and so many just mental things that go on in your head, and just doubt, and you second guess yourself. But I think with Cam and the advice that she's getting from other athletes is probably by year 2 is when things are really going to come together. Like you're not going to be thinking about it anymore. It just takes time, but she will come back better, I believe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And she's also working with a performance coach, actually Kelsey Plum's performance coach.
Oh, from UW.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard great things.
Yeah.
I heard. Is she liking the experience?
Loving. In fact, she texted me about it today. And so,
I've heard great things about him too.
Yeah, she's made a great connection. And I do also love that Kelsey's UW head coach is now on staff for the Sparks.
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Cameron, when Cy was going to UW for rowing, Cameron took an unofficial there, and we laugh about it to this day because her coaches, Meek and others, were just not like the huggy, feel good coaches.
Warm and fuzzy.
And so then she's like, Mom, it's too rainy here. I'm not going from Oregon to Seattle. But then we go to practice and we see how he's interfacing with Kelsey was there. And there was another player. She couldn't even practice. Her knees were such a mess. She could not even run in practice, and she only played in games. And so she comes out of the game, and he is hugging, like longest hug on her, hugging her up. And Cameron looks at me. She's like, "What in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
What is he doing?" Jim. It's Jim's coach.
Jim.
What is he doing, Mom? I don't think I could play for someone like that.
Yeah.
Because she just wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
And so Reagan, the GM for Sparks, sent me video of Cameron just going 5 on no contact.
Yeah.
And Jim, I could hear Jim in the background, and I was like, I just want to thank you. Like, things happen for a reason. He's the assistant coach, Lynn, who we also love, but people are placed in your lives for the right time and the right reason.
True.
And I said, my hope, here I go, it's for her to come off the court and for him to just...
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Make me cry.
It's gonna happen. We're putting it out there.
I just have to say, as a mother who cares about my daughter so deeply, like the way you talk about Cam and your relationship is so special. And I would love more of that, like those types of stories to come out of other athletes. And so like, thank you for putting your story out there, because it just, it creates such a deeper connection, like for me as a fan, right? And I think it's so important for these vulnerable moments for young girls and people like me who are fans to see this, because it makes you feel such a deeper connection with sports in a way that I didn't necessarily feel at like the professional levels, you know, because I could never relate. And now I'm like, I'm obsessed because I feel such a deep connection with the way Cam shows up to the world and how fierce she is, how powerful she is, because I want to see women win.
Yeah, we all do. And I do want to talk a little bit about her clinic. Obviously, with my background in sport and women's basketball, her agent at the time was talking about the camp, etc. And I was like, in Oregon, and I'm like, I don't want to charge kids, but I was like, I just want this something different, and I don't want it to get back for sure, and not to be high school kids, because once girls pretty much decide to play at the high school, and especially at the elite level, they're in. But where we're losing girls, a 2-to-1 ratio is middle school. So we had a really clear purpose and plan. Our mission statement was to get middle school girls, to keep them involved. So it's called Next 22, and it was supposed to be just 22 girls, middle school girls. But
that blew up.
Yeah. And it's
more than 22.
It's 60. It is.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's invite only. And it could, like, people want us to make it bigger, and people want us to go to state of Washington and California. And we're like, wait, let's just perfect what we're doing here. And we want to keep it at about the same number, because we want her to be able to interface, and the girls that are there to feel, like they've had some sort of connection throughout the day. So that was year 1. And then by year 2, Cameron had signed with New Balance. And now
they're all in.
Yeah, New Balance is lacing them. Like, it's beautiful.
That's awesome.
And
incredible.
I'm all about the swag. So the day is basketball, but the most important part of the day is lunchtime. And so there's no cameras allowed, and it's just after they eat, Cameron talks. We just open it up, and they're allowed to ask her whatever they want. And so it gets really raw, and some tears here and there. And
I mean, that's the kind of stuff we need athletes to be doing.
Yeah.
Because that's like, because so many athletes, as rightly as they should, are put on such a pedestal, but sometimes it doesn't feel relatable to a lot of these kids. So for Cam to be giving her time like that, to just be like raw and real and open, like that is so special, especially for girls.
Yeah, it's my favorite. So we run it out of our garage. Like,
I'm obsessed.
It's a
wait, your literal garage? No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm collating. Like, the product all comes to our garage.
I'm
packing
no,
the bag.
The camp is not there.
No, the camp is at Mountainside. They've been amazing. So it's a beautiful gym.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pack and we get everything ready in our garage, and it's my favorite. Like, it's a lot of hard. My husband keeps saying, we're hiring someone to do this next year.
I'm like, do you want me to pack swag? I would love for you to do that.
I would love
it. No, I'm serious. Like, I literally live for those moments, like to see these kids and these girls, like, really especially fun. Again, like I keep bringing it back to my daughter, but like those kind of moments can change a kid's the course of their entire life.
Yeah.
We get so lovely Best. You know she was.
Why does that sound so familiar?
She's a freshman from I think it's Tualatin. She won like MVP. They beat Jazzy's team
Oh, no.
in the state
Oh.
championships.
That's
She's
awesome.
also like
won
best
a
name
Cameron.
ever.
Yeah,
Just
right.
like,
But anyway, we have former players come back to be counselors. So Lovely was a counselor last
That's
year.
awesome.
So cool.
She actually, I don't think it's officially announced, but she's been invited. So New Balance is doing their first elite camp this summer.
There we go.
And so yeah,
Ever?
their first
Is
elite.
this breaking news on the
Yeah.
pod?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Uh-huh.
it. Wow,
So by the
that's
time
so
it comes
exciting.
out, they've already had the invitation sent out. So we asked for Lovely. We asked for a couple of girls that have committed to Stanford to kind of be Cameron's, proxies. They're
Wow.
they're crazy talented.
Yeah,
They'd be
yeah.
in the top anyway. But so
That
we're
is
excited, and they're going to
incredible.
do it right. Like they're going to stay at the Ritz in Boston, and
Let's go.
they have all of these fun things set up. For them.
Wow.
They'll go to a game.
Yeah.
It's speaking to me so loudly right now because one of the things, and I'm fortunate enough where we can afford to get Haley into camps and like get her into sports, but sports are expensive.
Really. And that's what Next 22 is about. Like
I
some
love
of these kids they've received scholarship offers, obviously.
Yeah.
But what she stresses that day is just stay involved.
Yeah.
Because not all of you, we know the numbers.
Yeah.
How many of you are going to go on to play D1? It's
Actually,
low.
It's very small.
It's
Yeah.
low. And then how many of you are going to go on to play professionally?
Mm-hmm.
It is very small. You don't want to ever tell anyone they're not going to do it, but the odds are low.
Yeah.
So, but what we do know is if you stay involved in sports, especially a team sport, you're less likely to drop out of school. You have better grades. You're less likely to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You're I think there's a stat out there that 90% of women in C-suite positions have played sport.
Yeah.
That's
So
what's up.
it's just stay involved.
Yeah.
Take in all of the things that sport, teach you and provide you.
I think to me, that's why I want to devote my life to like helping in women's sports, even though I'm not a pro athlete, because I want other women to see like when you're part of this community, you will be better in wherever you go next.
Exactly.
And that is the growth of women's sports it's going to catalyze that for all kinds of women. And Cam's at like the forefront. I mean, many women. Jackie, you were one of the women, Michelle, you were one of the women early on. Like we have a long way to go, but like it feels like we're getting there,
It really, and Cameron is the first to thank people who have paved the way before her.
Yeah.
Because, like last year was the first year that they were flying charter.
Yeah.
Which
Wow.
is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Just last year.
That's
And-
freaking bonkers.
Yeah.
And honestly, Caitlin really kind of was the catalyst because people were harassing. I mean, Cameron was getting it. They had to put a specific person on her hip as they went through the airport.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what
Yeah.
Caitlin was getting. Like it just wasn't healthy, and so they're finally investing. But it's hard. I mean, we need the league to be profitable. The new CBA and the new TV deal are going to really help.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny. I mean, we're so immersed. I find myself until the playoffs for the NBA, I'm hardly invested.
Same.
But right?
Yeah.
But the W, it's a shorter season.
Yeah.
Their games of consequence are more often, and just if you love basketball, I've said this before, men's basketball sometimes feels like an individual. It can be a lot of ones and and it's played more above the rim. But if you love the sport and the team aspect of it, you'll love women's basketball. So give it a chance, and people are giving it a chance.
Yeah.
And it's honestly more enjoyable to watch most of the time. And I'm not just saying
I have
that.
to agree.
It just is. It's
Yeah.
a better product.
Yeah.
I never watched, I'm not ashamed to admit this, I didn't watch professional sports before the last couple of years. And it's because of what I've seen these women outside of sport. Like, I'm flipping through a Gorgiana magazine and I see Cam and I'm like, oh my God, because I love Gorgiana and I love Cam, because finally the women's brands are paying attention too. And these are the brands that are inspiring other women that like, you can be powerful on and off the court. And now like Jackie laughs at me because I'm like a novice in the game, but I'm like learning all these things and I actually like watching now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's got to be more other women like me that maybe didn't grow up in the game, but feel this deep connection to these women and therefore want to know more, do want to show up, want to keep their kids in sports. Like, that's the next generation fan.
What's amazing about this conversation is that your daughter brought her to women's basketball. Your daughter, Angel Reese, you know, these specific players like brought someone like Lauren who had nothing to do with women's basketball to the game.
There's a level for everybody out there. If you really want, you know, if you don't want to play on your high school team, you can play on a rec team.
Yep.
You can, you know, there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to see women win.
Yeah.
And this is an industry right now where women are winning.
Yeah, they're on average, I think the NIL space is dominated by female athletes.
Yeah.
So and that is the good news, bad news about social media. Like, girls are digesting it at a higher rate.
Right.
And so they are putting their lives out there, and they all look perfect when they're not. So there's that balance that you have to work on with your kids too. But
totally,
it's a beautiful thing for women, because we wouldn't have had that. Cameron wouldn't have had that additional income without her building her brand via social media.
Yeah.
So.
And like, I've fallen in love with so many of like her brand and others, because I'm like the video of you guys doing your nails together, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do that with Haley. Like, I'm like, I'm going to buy Sally Hansen right now. Like, and I used to get that. That's the power though of like women's brands, amazing women athletes that are authentic and real, and then fans who are like falling in love with those stories. And we're at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So
no, it's fun.
Well, Michelle, to say multidimensional is an understatement for you. And we are very, very honored to have you come on and just be so honest and open, and just to see the relationship and the family you've built is such an inspiration to me, because I have a young family and sometimes it feels so overwhelming and so hard to balance it all. Yeah. And just like the way you've navigated life, and how even I've just learned so much on even some of the things, how to talk to my daughter, you know, and my son. So just thank you so much for sharing this with us and being part of our Click Clack community.
It's an honor, and thank you for letting me yap.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? We could go for hours.
Yeah, you were amazing, and I personally appreciated hearing the way you raised Cam, like in sports, you know, and how you were with her and not pushing her to do something that she didn't want to do, and allowing her to be and do what she wanted to do. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, because like you alluded to earlier, there's a lot of parents that are, you know, very overbearing, and that could, you know, make a kid not want to, you know, participate in sports anymore. So I think that was really amazing for me to hear and see. And I was really curious to see how you brought up such an amazing, you know, woman like Cameron. And she had an amazing role model. So she's lucky to have you, for sure.
Girl. That interview. Sorry, I couldn't even find the words.
That's okay.
I mean, that's hard for me.
Yeah, that's not normal. Are you well? Are you okay?
Maybe. No, I'm so well. That interview, I had never met her before. I obviously follow her on social. I know she's Cameron Brink's mom. It's very rare that you meet someone who has that level of star power, is so glamorous, is so smart, has done so many things, but is also just so chill.
Yeah. I could not agree more. It was just such a conversation, you know. I kind of like forgot that we were even recording.
Yeah.
Because she's just so easy to talk to, and just like everything she says, you just kind of latch on to what she's saying.
What would you say for you was kind of like the biggest learning?
Yeah, for me, two things stood out, and I think obviously Cam's injury was one that felt very near and dear to me. Obviously, I've talked about this on many episodes, but I've dealt with the ACL injury multiple times. I think hearing Michelle talk about the support that Cam had from other peers around the league that have also been through it, that is what has helped her. And I can relate to that so well, because I didn't really have very many peers that like had gone through that and that I was able to share that experience with. I was fortunate enough to have a teammate that came a year after me at USC that also was plagued with this injury. And her and I, shout out to Stephanie Gilbreth, who I absolutely love. She went through multiple ACL injuries alongside me at USC. And I experienced what it was to for someone else to be going through and feeling all the same things that I did. I think mine for me was just I felt so alienated in the situation because I chose to remove myself because I was so, embarrassed and ashamed that I wasn't playing and I couldn't play. So that was on me. But yeah, I think Cam has shared some of her experiences with other people helping her, and I know like how big that could be. And I think all the support that she has, where we're at right now with like recovery and where PT is and just all the different resources that are available now when we didn't have those kinds of things 10 years ago. I think Cam is going to be in really good hands, and I can see her coming back and literally being stronger than she was before. And I'm just so happy that she has people that she can lean on in the league that can like uplift her and guide her. And then the second thing was just like the sacrifices that her parents made for her. And I know what my parents did for Jonna and I growing up, and I know the sacrifices that they made. And that's why for me, it's so intriguing to hear other people's stories and how they raised their kids, especially kids that are high profile and, reached a certain level on the court. And Cam being one of the best players and being a great high school player, being an amazing college player, now in the pros, there's so much behind that. There's so much why behind that. Like, how did she get there? And a lot of that has to do with how she was brought up and what her parents did for her. My parents worked multiple jobs. We were a very just like middle class family, hardworking family. My dad always calls us blue collar workers. And my dad would, work multiple side jobs. My mom worked multiple side jobs. They had us in private school, and that wasn't free. So my mom was like doing gardening work, working at the snack bar, doing everything that she could to just put Jonna and I through school. And my dad worked the graveyard shift. And after the graveyard shift, he wouldn't sleep. He'd take me to the gym, and we'd be in the gym for 2 hours, and then he'd take his nap. And then after, he'd take me to practice. And, then he'd do his second or third job. And it just, again, the sacrifice and everything that they put in to me and Jonna is why we turned out the way that we did. And I think too, for us in our household, Jonna was so smart, and that's why she became a doctor. She took a different path. But me, I loved basketball. I was obsessed with basketball. That was my passion. So for me, it was after school, I'm gonna practice, and then school comes second. And there were days that I didn't want to practice. There were days that I was tired and I wanted to just be a regular kid. I wanted to go hang out with friends, or I wanted to go do this or that. And my dad wouldn't let me, straight up. He wouldn't let me. He said he would always tell me, like, and he would do this thing with his hands. And I remember his hands. And he was like, look, you're here and the competition is here. If you don't practice today, the competition's going to get here. And I just remember his hand movements, and it would almost scare me if I didn't put in work, if I didn't practice, if I didn't outwork, the people next to me, someone was going to catch up to me. And I was always ahead of everyone, but if I didn't practice that day, someone was going to get closer to me. And so I think my dad instilled this wild work ethic in me at such a young age, and that's something that I held on to forever. And he probably regrets some of that and thinks that he overworked me, and sometimes even blames himself for all my knee injuries, but that is not the case. I wasn't overworked. My knees were set up in a way that like wasn't built, I guess, to play basketball. But all that to say, like, my parents were absolutely incredible. And I know that other parents out there have had similar stories of just like all the sacrifice and the hard work that they put in to make their kids great. And that's why I love to hear those stories.
You almost had me in tears, girl. Damn. Like, that was...
I just rambled on for a long time.
No, it wasn't a ramble. It was so beautiful and thoughtful. And when you were talking about, like, sometimes just wanting to be a regular kid, like, I was a regular kid. Like, I did sports. I played a lot of sports. I was very active. But, like, I was always with my friends on the weekends and, like, wasn't as much of a motivator for me. I never wanted to go pro. Like, I just had a different relationship with sport. And so, I don't know, for me, it just hits on a deeper level because, as a parent, you want your kid to fall in love with something and love it so much that it helps them be great. And I think that's why sport is such a beautiful conduit for that, because it teaches you all of those skills to be great, which you've obviously applied to so many aspects of your life. I call her the chameleon, you guys, because this woman can literally do anything.
So can you.
I mean, like,
thank you.
who knew she was going to be on a podcast? And she's like, and like, being part of Click Clack.
Fully out of my comfort zone, but here
So
we
out
are.
of your comfort zone. But like, those are the people that are great, that strive for greatness. And so I just felt like, for me, I could do, like, I was like, we should do an episode with Steve and you just to talk about that, because I think it would be, I mean, I know her dad, he's an amazing human being. You can't not fall in love with Steve, and Linda as
Thank you.
well. But yeah, I mean, like for me with, well, actually, let me step back and say thank you for sharing that story, because
Of course.
I'm now in the position where I am raising the kids that I want to find that thing that they love.
Mm-hmm.
And, it took me a while to figure out what I loved, like really, really loved. And, I was talking to Haley the other day about sports, and I'm really trying to have active conversations with her about sports. And she said something to me like, well, mommy, I only want to do dance and ballet because that's what girls do.
Yeah.
And I was like really shocked by that, because we've never had those conversations in our house yet. And there's so many like gendered issues in sport, I think, around what sports are girls' sports versus what are not. And I think that's why I'm so in love with this next generation of what's happening in women's sports, because we're shattering those stereotypes and those gender stereotypes, right? And so it was just such a good reminder to me to be like, I have to show her what women in sports look like across a lot of sports.
Right.
Because it's easy in the society we've been all raised in to fall into those boxes and those buckets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time to really just smash those.
Yeah.
And so I think Michelle's episode for me was, and your story has been, I've just learned so much about, how do I approach this sport with her? What are some things to think about? I think it's very easy, as Michelle talked about, for parents to want to be friends with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like, you want that because you want your kids to like you. We're human beings. We want people to like us.
Right.
But you have to put parenting first.
Yeah.
And that is really hard.
Yeah.
And it breaks your soul sometimes, because it's like, well, this is not what I want for you,
Mm-hmm.
but I know it's the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just think this episode really hits hard for me. It's almost Mother's Day. We all get nostalgic around these times of year, but frankly, mothers should be celebrated every single day, 24/7, 365, because
100%.
being a mother is so hard.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's hard.
Let's just take a moment and just like appreciate our moms for everything that they've done for us. Like, I know I talked a lot about my dad and those sacrifices. My mom, same. And like, she's the strength of our family, and she's the reason why I was able to come back from all those knee injuries and still make it to the WNBA, because of her strength. 2-time breast cancer survivor, ovarian cancer survivor, like my stroke survivor. She is literally the queen.
I didn't know your mom had a stroke.
She did.
I would have never known.
Yeah.
Everybody, just picture this: Linda and me on the dance floor at Jackie's wedding, like
looking fabulous,
looking
as fuck.
really fabulous, like dropping it like it's hot, arms in the air.
We have a video we can pull.
Yeah, we could definitely put that B-roll.
Yeah, we're going to.
But like Linda she's the definition of a survivor in every sense, and just the way she shows up to the world, she's so positive.
Shout out to Carla. Let's go.
Yes, I know. My mom's like, what about me? No, my mom is my best friend. I'm in a very grateful place to have been raised and now can be a friend with my mom. And she's the first person I call anytime I have an issue or I need to vent about. Sorry, I'm gonna cry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first time I think I've cried on this episode.
Good. That's good. Keep the tears flowing.
She's always there for us. She is constantly helping me with my kids. And like, I know I can be my like most truest self with her.
Yeah.
She's 72. She doesn't look it. She doesn't look a day. Neither does
No,
Linda. And like, I think we are products of women that, and I will say this publicly, she probably won't be loved that I say this, but she did not have the same relationship with her mother. And her mother was the polar opposite of my mom. And so my mom, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So my mom went the completely other direction, and became not overbearing, but like wanted to be so intertwined in our lives and would give up anything in her life, any passion she had, anything she wanted to do to support us kids. And all three of us are extremely successful, well-rounded kids. I mean, we have our flaws, of course, but
you having flaws? I don't think
so many. Ask my husband. No, I'm just kidding. But my mom is just the definition of empathy, of compassion, of love. She gives so much love into the world, and she's such a sweet, beautiful person inside and out. And I could talk about her for days, but I love you, Mom.
I love you too, Carla.
And I just hope and pray that my daughter and I have a relationship the way that my mom and I have a relationship.
You will, and I see the way that you raise Haley and Nolan. You are an absolute superwoman.
Thank
So,
you.
happy Mother's Day, girl.
Thank you. I love you, Jack.
I love you too.
This episode is going to air the Friday before Mother's Day. And we just want to say to all the mothers out there, you are the backbone of this society. We know how much you do. I am a mother. I know you have aspirations of being a mother. Being a mother is a gift in whatever form you are a mother, whether you're a caretaker, you have the child yourself, and there's so many definitions of mother, right?
Mhm.
And we just want to give you so many flowers this weekend. Do something for yourself. Focus on something that makes you feel good.
For me, when I think of Mother's Day and I think of mother, like a mother, the word that comes to mind for me is strength. And that is like the definition of my mom. So I'm going to continue to give her kudos. But happy Mother's Day to all of the amazing mothers out there. Again, you all are so freaking strong. And I'm just so grateful that I'm around a ton of mothers that I get to learn from and hopefully be, half as good as you and my mom and other mothers around me. So,
You'll be better.
oh, we'll see.
Well, we'll be there for you.
I know.
Okay, we love you.
Love you.
Happy Mother's
Happy
Day.
Mother's Day.